We finished last time with making our hands move and even making it move a little bit between every full hour, full minute. But we still only have a watch that's true twice a day. So only when you're loading it and then exactly 12 hours later. So everyone at the same starting position.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, then let's do the next step. It would be nice if our script would run every second, right? So that the time gets always updated proper. So for that, let's put, making the tier a little bigger so you guys see a little more. Let's put all of that inside a function. So for that, we just call function. And let's give it a name, run the clock. Okay. And then we take everything here and just move it inside our function. Everyone good with that?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So then let's save it and let's run the script on the website. And what happened? Nothing happened, right? Why? Any ideas why nothing happened anymore? No one? Wild guess? We didn't break anything.
Is there just nothing to tell it to run?
Exactly. So we put our code in the function, but we never told the browser to run the function, right? So just here at the bottom, let's create a new variable, because that's how it's done. Oh, and var for variable. Let's call it interval. Okay. And let's put a code in there that makes our other function run every second. So set interval, that is a given function that we get from JavaScript, in where we can tell JavaScript how often to run something if something has to be repeatedly started. So in there we have to put two parameters. The first one is what should our set interval function call, and that would be run the clock. And then how often. So, and let's say 1000 here. So every 1000 milliseconds, also known as 1 second, the script should be run. Okay. So let's save it, refresh the page. And it's working. Is it working for everyone? Yeah, cool, right?
Yeah, this is pretty cool.
So we only have one slight issue. Wait till my second arm goes to 60 seconds. Everyone saw that? So the arm does not go from 59 to 0. It goes back to 0 anti-clockwise, okay? This happens because in our CSS, the bottom here, okay. Which one was it? So here, the transition, okay? So if we comment this transition out here, the arm does not go back anti-clockwise. So let's put a comment here. Save that one, run that one again. So let's check if it's working. But what we see already, we lost our smooth running here. It always, the second one always jumps from one to the next. Always in second steps. If you're out for that, we would be finished. I hope. Let's check what happens from 59 to 0. Ooh. It continues, right? So if you're going for that style, we would be done. But we want to have the smooth transition. And for that, let's uncomment that CSS style here out again. And save it. And then go back to our script. Okay. So to make that run, we have to put our date where we get the fresh date outside our function, and also these three ones where we set up the date we're getting in that one to have proper values, and then also these three ones where we calculate the position. Okay, so I just will move the start of the function down here. Oops. Okay. There was like a little space there. Okay. So now we just have the style, the rotation inside the function, and everything outside. So now we have to put something inside the function that sets the proper settings to begin with. So we have to write some new things here. So this first part here gets now only updated once, right? But this script is still running every second. So I have to update my hand degree positions that I'm having here inside the function. So that's what we're doing now. So we're doing, let's start upside down. So sec position. And the new value for that one will be sec position. So whatever it is at the moment, plus 360 divided by 60. Okay, so 360 degrees divided by 60 seconds, or plus 6. Because 360 divided by 6 is 6, right? Sorry, I'm throwing some mathematics in between.
Yeah, I totally missed the math part.
Okay, so the 6 is the same then. 6 equals 360 divided by 6.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Oh, divided by 60, sorry. So that's right now. For the 60 minutes and the 360 degrees. So then we do the kind of same thing for the minute position, which will be min position plus, okay, 1 divided by 60 multiplied with 6. So 1 minute is 60, we have we have 60 minutes and an hour, and we always have to go these 6-degree steps. Okay, and why I have a 110 6 steps? Okay. Yeah, and I can shorten that to 10. Okay, because I have 660. Mathematics, believe me, it's 110. 1 divided by 10. And then for the hour position, we have to do the same. Hour position plus 30 divided by 3,600, which is the amount of seconds we have in an hour. So if I shorten that, it will be 1 divided by 120. So this would be 30 divided by 3,600. And this one would be plus 1 divided by 1 divided by 60 multiplied 6. Okay. Does everyone have that? Okay, so let's save it and rerun our script. And everything is working so far. And let's see if the minute swap works still. Yay. So what we have here now is whenever we load the page the first time, we get the new time, we put it in our variables, and then we calculate the minute, hour, and second position of every arm. And then we run our script every second and take the position that we have initially calculated out here and update it with 6 degrees for every second. So every time the script runs, which is every second, we add 6 degrees to our second hand, and 1/10 to our minute hand, and 1/120th to our hour hand. So from the before our transform, the rotation one was from 0 to 360, and then it went back to 0. And because it went back to 0, our arms went anti-clockwise on that. So we took that one out, and now if you let the script run for an hour, for example, the second arm would take 3,600, no, 60 seconds, 60 runs around the clock. And the amount of degrees will be just, for every second would be just added up. So you start with 0, and after a second you have 6 degrees, and after another second you have 12 degrees, and after 100 seconds you have 600 degrees. So it will just end up till eternity, which is not a problem for us. It just happens that the browsers are kind of resourceful these days. And if you have a script run in the background, the browser will pause the script. So as an example here, if I open some other websites, I don't know, here, and go around and load other stuff, and then go back to my watch, you see that it had to jump a few seconds forward. For the guys who didn't watch, let's do it again. So if I'm on another tab and I'm doing stuff, and I'm, you know, our digital clock is kind of paused in the background so that the browser doesn't have to run a JavaScript script that is not in use at the moment for visible in use. So as soon as I go back, you will see that the arms of the clock are somewhere, and then it takes like a second to update them. Yeah, that's the only downfall on it. So is it still working for everyone like it should be? Okay. Then you have a script to run a clock, and because it's SVG, you can put it anywhere on your websites in any size. Good. Okay. So then let's go to our next thing here. We are starting to use events to have DOM manipulation. So now we're getting into stuff where we're doing something with what we're doing with JavaScript, besides making a watch. So let's open the DOM events HTML one. And when you preview, I have a little navigation bar, our mission. We have a book now button here, some testimonials and some footer links. Okay, and we will work with the book now button here. So if we look in our HTML here, where is it? Here, line 50, it's where it starts. So we have a section, and the section has an ID of book. And in there we have an anchor tag that is the book now button, which is that here. And below that we have a div that at the moment has a class of height. And in there we have 2 paragraphs. And our goal here is to show the 2 paragraphs when someone has the JavaScript turned off for its browser, so that they're still getting the message. And if they don't, then we don't show the message. We just show the book now button. And when someone presses the book now button, and as a use case, for example, we don't have an internet connection, or our booking site is down or whatever, we would get the text displayed. So, and for that, we need events. I will start a little more from the back now. We have different kind of events. We have browser events and document events. So a browser event would be something like the page is finished loading, or there's an error somewhere on the page, or the user is online or offline, or the user resized the browser window, or he started to scroll, something like this. And the document level events are, for example, if you have a form, an element gets focused. So like if you have a form and you click on an input field, the input field gets focused. That's what it's called. So it gets into focus. Another thing is blur event is when something loses focus. So if you tap to the next element, for example, if someone presses the reset or the submit button, or hundreds of mouse events like click, mouse over, drag, drop, mouse enters something, the mouse exits something, so in and out events. And then there are other events, so the third group, which, for example, are media events. Some audio, video started playing or stopped playing, or whatever is other reasons with these events. Or you monitor something, like if you're waiting for an API to have an image finally downloaded or something like that, or different CSS transitions. So if it's fully done, start this. So if it's not fully done, do something else meanwhile, something like that. There are so many use cases where you can play around. So, and in order to handle events, you kind of need 3 steps. The first one is to identify which element you're actually looking for an event to happen on. So on our page, we're looking for the button to be pressed, for example. And then, so we're looking at the button. And then while we're looking at the button, we're saying, oh, now we're waiting till something happens to the button. So we are identifying an event that we're looking for. For example, if it's clicked, we're waiting for the click event to happen. And then when this happens, we have to create a function that fires and does something for us. Hide, unhide, things like this. Okay, everyone good with the concept of that? Okay, so we have opened the DOM events already. Then I showed you this here. Okay, so I made a little mistake here. So we would have to put the class hide onto our button here, or actually the button. And then we can toggle that on and off. So, because if someone does not have JavaScript activated in the browser, you should start with seeing the text and not the button. So let's move the class here. Oh, actually, just that one here inside. The class hide onto our button, which is here. Okay. Let's not worry about the rest that remains up there. So, okay. So now we see our text, but we don't see technically the button or the button text. So this would happen if someone does not have JavaScript. Okay, then let's go to our DOM event JavaScript file. And let's create two constants, the one for the button and the one for the whole div where the text is in, okay? So let's create this const. For the button, let's be very creative. Let's call it btn for button. And then let's go and look for our button. So document. Then we have the query selector. And then we're going for the ID of book. So that's the whole thing. And then we're looking for the anchor tag in there. Okay. And then let's create another one, constant. And this one is for the alert message. We just call it alert, because I didn't come up with a better name. Document, query selector, and then we are going for the ID of booking alert. Okay. For now, we should have then, when we run the script, the location of the button and the location of the text stored in our constants. So now let's write our little function to toggle them on and off. So function and reveal, let's call it reveal. And then for the button, we go to the class list and then we toggle the hide class on and off. Okay. And the same is done for the alert. Class list, toggle, hide. And by the way, hide is a CSS class that I created, which is, where is it? We give it a height of 0 and the overflow hidden. Could have done a display none, but no, I didn't. Okay. That's awesome, but if we try to run our script, we're still getting nowhere because we never call the function, right? So then outside here, let's go to our, let's save that one. We can apply the event on two different places. One is in our script and one is in our actually HTML. Here. I could also go to my button and add here a JavaScript command. So where's the one? Oh, we do that later. Sorry. Let's stay in our CSS here. So we would say button, btn, button, and on click, and then we call the reveal function. And we don't want to have it run immediately. That's why we don't have the brackets here. So when immediately when the browser reads this text. So let's save that one. Which one is not saved here? Okay, let's preview it. Not there, and if I click it, it goes away. Okay. Good. My camera gave up already on me. Yeah, later time. So, ta-da! But our problem here is if we're a little down here and we press the button, we always jump to the top of the page, right? So if you scroll down and click the button, boom. So if the button would be down here, we would always jump to the top. This is done because we have in our button the href attribute, and that one has a default behavior of always jumping to the top of the page. So if you're going to a different website, for example, you start at the top. You don't start somewhere in the middle, halfway scroll down the page. That is the default behavior. We can go to our JavaScript and undo that behavior by looking for that event that happens in the browser and then saying no to it. So yeah, we are hijacking that event that is by default triggered. So in our function here within the brackets, we can put the event in there. So if we need information from outside the function to dynamically put in there, we have to create something in there. It drives me crazy when my camera is not working. Okay, so there are two ways how this is usually named. One is you just type the event as event in there, or you just use E. Okay. And then we have to go inside our function. And then we have to use that information we got there. So we're going for E. And then there is already a method programmed for us in JavaScript, or actually in the browser, and that one is prevent default. Okay. And it's a method, so we have to use the two brackets. And done. So let's save it and rerun that one here. And if I'm scrolling down and clicking it, I'm not jumping up and down the page anymore. Cool, huh? Okay, this is for simple events. I use the on click, for example, on whatever I'm looking for. If I'm having a little more complex ones, we're going to that one here. So what if I'm creating a second event on the same button? So btn big button, and let's do another on click, right? Because that worked so good the first time. And now we want to have a message displayed in our console every time someone clicks it. So console log the button was clicked. Okay. So let's save that one. Restart the page. And this time I also inspect the page to see our console. Okay. And now every time someone clicks at the page, there should be the message, right? So click here. And nothing happens, right? So first we have our old behavior back where we jump to the back of the top of the page, and then nothing is being output here, right? So something's going wrong. So with these simple events, I cannot do two things at once on one element. Okay. So for that, we have event listeners. So where we are here. So now let's delete our or comment out our last two lines here. Okay. And then let's make that one proper. So we add an event listener to our button. So btn and then add event listener. And then we have to give him at least two informations in here. So first, for which event should the listener listen? So we want to have a click event. Okay. Then in here, we write an anonymous function to tell it what to do. Oh, first the click. First, we have already the reveal function written, so let's call that one first. Reveal. Okay, comma. And then the third information we have to provide is true or false, which you usually put false in. So I even don't know what it does. You just have to create a third information. So false. Okay, that is our first event listener. And then for the second one, oh, the true and false is the information for how the browser should capture that event. And there are some specifics. I always use false, so it works 99%. So for the second thing we tried to do is btn again. So button, add event listener. And also on a click event. And then we have nothing for that. And for that, we have to write a small anonymous function. So function. Okay. Let me make that a little higher up for you guys. And then in here, we want to have our output, the console log the button was clicked. Okay. And then after the curly brackets, we need our false. Okay. Everyone good? Okay. Then let's save it, go back to our page, and also have the developer tool. And now it's working. And for every time I click, I get an output here. So it just adds up the number here on the left side. I can do that 35 times till I get bored. Okay, is that working for everyone? So the simple events, we only can do one, but if I want to do more, I use the event listener for it. Okay, so then as a fun thing, I also gave you the mouse tracker HTML file. Okay, and I opened it in the browser as well. And this one just looks where your mouse is on the website and reverses the coordinates for the ring. So whatever you do, you just get reversed. But if you get close and get inside the ring, you make it green. So. Okay. And that's really not a lot. So I have here the circle with a little bit of CSS, and I have one empty div here with the class of circle. Okay. And then here in JavaScript, I don't let you guys type that one. So we have the two constants. One is the area the circle can be in, which is the document body. And then another one for the circle itself, and we select just the element with the class of circle. Then we have two variables, the window width and height, to get the width and the height of the browser window, because here, if I resize it, it should still work. If I load it, it just does it on the initial load to get the browser window. Okay, didn't want to get too fancy. So then I have a function for the mouse coordinates, and we're listening for an event, and then we're getting the window width and height, and taking the mouse position off, that total amount of width and height, and then taking 26 pixels off, which is the radius of the circle, and store all that information then into the two positions. Then I make the mouse, the circle for the mouse finder move accordingly to where the cursor is. And then there's another function on change color on touch. So whenever the mouse is within this 26 pixel radius of the circle turns green. And then I have a couple of event listeners that look for the mouse move and the mouse enter to make it green, and the mouse leave to reverse the green to being transparent again. So you guys can then play with that, make it bigger, smaller, different colors, look for different events if you want, okay? It's just for you to play around. Oh, one other thing I wanted to show you guys is here in our event listener for the second one, for the console log output. There is a newer way to write that one. And let's do that quick. So you have seen it once. Okay, it would be btn, then add the event listener, on click, and then a more modern way is to have arrow function. Where have I my example here? So for these anonymous functions, you just write it this way. And then you even don't, if it's just one comment, you even, one line of code, you don't even have to have the curly brackets. And this would be console log. Copy that one down. Okay. That would be the exact same thing. So it's this is called an arrow function. So whenever you see it, at least you know what it is. It's nothing crazy. It just replaces the word function and then puts all the other stuff in there. Good? Okay. So what else? So what am I having here? That is a big example I don't want to do with you guys. Okay. No. So that would be our example for that one here. And then you guys want to do a fun little thing where you, where do I have it open? No. Here, where you get the browser size.
Why not?
Okay. Let's do that one. That's a quickie. I don't need to watch anymore. So, okay. I think I even gave you guys the start here. I think I gave you guys the browser resize something in the examples. Browser size start. I think it's under extra examples for you guys. Guys found it? Okay. Okay. So far I gave you a little bit of styling of the different elements in CSS and an empty body. So let's see where I have my thing for that. There. Okay, so let's go into our body here. And we need a div. Okay. And inside the div, we're putting a heading 1. And the browser size is, and then we're having a paragraph tag, and inside there we're having a span tag with an ID of width. Okay, and it's empty. And then we want to have the px for pixel. Then for some styling reasons, I have a BR tag, so a break, with a class of hider. I know I really have good names for my things, right? So let's do that here, just for you to have it easier to read. We have the word by, and then we have another break with a class of hider. So this is just coming up when the browser window is too small to have them all the results next to each other. And then we have another span with an ID of height. Okay. And afterwards, pixels. And then we close the paragraph in the div. And it looks awesome like this. Okay. So let's save that part. Then let's write the JavaScript at the bottom. So after that, let's give us a few lines. And let's open with the script tag. And that write our whole thing. So first, let's write our function where we going to calculate everything out. So function, and with the fantastic name of getSize. Okay. Put it a little higher for you guys. So, okay, the getSize function. And in there, we creating two variables. So two lets, actually. The one called W for width. And in there, we're putting the window inner width. So we're going to the browser and want to have the window method. So, and then we want to have the inner width of the browser window. And we're storing that in W. Then we create the H for the height and pretty much doing the same. Window, inner height. Okay, so now whenever this function is called, we're going into the browser and asking for its width and height inside the browser window. Woohoo. Then we want to put it out on our nice display, right? So document, get element by ID, get element by ID, because we gave it nice IDs. And the first one, you know, I use single text this time, width, and into the inner text, ooh, we put whatever value we got from the width. Inner text, yeah. Then the same for the height. Document, get element by ID, height, in text, height. So whatever the browser gives us for its window width and height, we're then putting for the width and for the height. Okay, so our function is done. So now we just have to call it, right? This gets done by get size zack, zack, the two brackets. So when the browser reads through the scripts, he gets the function and then calls it immediately because we have these two brackets there. So when we call it immediately and run it immediately. Okay, that would only give us the initial one. So let's save that one, refresh here. Where is my typo? Height.
Professor, it's height with a T in your document.
Ah, thank you. I'm getting old. Okay. So, boom. As soon as we run it, it's working, but it's not updating when we change the browser size, right? So let's make that one happen. And for that one, guess what? We're doing an event listener. So window. So we're looking for the change in the browser window. Add event listener. And if something happens there, and what will happen there? We are resizing. And as soon as we're resizing, we run the get size function. So and it's working. Is it working for everyone? Good. That's not painful, right?
Not too bad.
This is pretty much what your assignment is. Get some information and do something with it. Project 3. This is that one. If you guys want, I have another one where you can take text you put in into Morse code and then back. If you're interested, we can do that quick too. Yes, okay. Okay, so this is the Morse code example I gave you guys. Where is that one? I use Morse code start. Okay, so I spared you guys from writing all the comparison for every letter. I spared you. So I make two functions where they go with an if-else through it to check if, for example, the letter we are looking at. So we're having an array, so a string of letters then in here, what we're putting in here. And then we're putting the string and splitting it up in an array, and every letter gets a position in an array. And then for every position, we're running the compare or the other one that reverses from Morse code to letters again. So we're here, we're looking if the item we're checking at that moment is equal to an A, then we're putting out a dot and a hyphen. Or if it's a B, a hyphen and 3 dots. Or so it's running that loop for every letter in your text you're putting into the first field. And I have some styling for you guys here. And then here for the body, I have a div and a label with a text area, which is the first here. Then we have the translate button. And then we have an output text area field where you cannot type anything in. Okay. And where I wrote code, enter code here, is where we put our code in. Okay. And now, because I'm talking so much, I need one more sip. Okay. So when we're looking at our example here, and I want you guys to think for that too a little bit. So what would we need with the amount of variables? Which variables would we need? So we need to store information there. While you think, I have time for my camera. Okay, so what would we need to start with? Just in plain English.
Do we need a variable?
Yeah,
No.
but we actually need two at least. But what would we store in the variables?
That's a great question.
So which information do I need to get from the website to do something with?
I mean, the input, like what the user is inputting, or from the
Yeah,
website itself?
The text that's being put in here, for example. Yeah, it's the first one. What else would I need?
You would need it to activate, right?
The second variable that I need is after I'm transferred into Morse code, I have to store it there, and then I put it out here, right? So first I need the input stored somewhere, and then I need the output stored somewhere. Okay, then let's create these two variables. So the first one, text input. And let's make that one an empty variable. And then the text output. So, and I start with an empty variable at the beginning, because if you, for example, enter a second text in there and start translate, you want to refresh everything to an empty state, so you're not adding to the translation you did before. Okay, does it make sense? So you're basically erasing the storage you have and start fresh. Okay, then we need an event listener right? To look for something, when to do stuff. Where would I focus on something happening on the website?
In the text input?
Yeah, it's kind of complicated to know when someone had finished putting text in.
So then the button?
Yes, we have a button to start the translation, right? So let's go and look for the button and then put an event listener on it. So document, get the element by ID, and I happen to know that this ID is Morse. And there we add the event listener. And we are listening for the click event, right? And then we want to do a function. Let's give the function do the job. Okay. And here actually I didn't even use the third parameter anymore. So we don't have to. Okay, so now we have to create a function, right? Function do the job. Okay. What do we have to do now? When someone presses the button, what has to happen first?
The text gets stored.
Yes, we have to go and grab the text from the website.
Beautiful.
It's all logical steps. It's no witchcrafting here. So, and we want to store it into the text input variable, right? So text input. And we are going out to our document and then get the element by ID. Okay, with the ID of, I was clever enough to call it text input. Okay. But we don't want to have the location where it is on the website, right? So we want to have the value that's inside. So the value. Okay. Now I have the text that someone puts in here stored in my input. So now, because it translates both ways, from text to Morse and from Morse back to text, I have to check if I start with the Morse code or start with text. So, and it is a not very solid test, but at least we're testing it. So with an if statement. So if, and here we need 2 for the parameters because we have to check 2 things. So if text input starts with, okay, Morse code starts with a dot or a hyphen. So if it starts with the dot, text input starts with dot here, the second one. Then we have to use the OR operator. So remember, that's the one above the return key. or text input starts with a hyphen or minus, then we need to do something, right? Then we have to call our other function that translates into Morse code. So translate Morse. Okay. What if not? So else just go to translate. Just call it translate function. Is everyone good so far? Okay. So after we have done the translation, then we stored it into our output, right? We have to do something with the translation that we have stored. What would we do with it?
What was the
Would
question?
you display it? Oh, sorry, Matthew.
Yeah, what we're doing now when we translated our Morse code and stored it in the variable. So we take the variable and look on the website for the text area that is reserved for our output and inject it there. So for that, first we have to know where to put it. So document, get element by ID. And I happen to know that I called it text output. Okay. And then we have to put the inner text in there. So we have to use inner text. Inner text, okay. And what are we putting there? We're putting our translation there, which is stored in the text output variable. Okay. And then to make it sure that someone can use the same thing again, after we put it on the website, we use the text output variable and set it back to 0, so to be empty. Okay. So now we have to create our two functions that translate Morse and to translate, right? So let's start with the translate one. So function translate. And there it gets a little bit deeper into JavaScript. So I have the text from the text input variable, and I'm going into the string of letters that is in there and split it up. So I make basically an array out of it where every letter is its own position in the string. Okay, that is done. And then I save it back into my text input variable. So text input, that's where it will be stored again. But I start with taking the variable out, so the information out, so text input. input. And then I'm using, first I make it upper class, so capitalize everything in there. So that is done with a function called toUpperCase. Okay. And then I use the split method. Split. And in there, I'm having an empty. So between every letter, I'm splitting the text up and put it into a new position in the array. That's done with the split and empty. I can split it up for every I don't know, every H in our text, so that would get blocks between H's, but for translating to Morse code, that doesn't make sense. Okay, and then I'm taking the new array I created, so the text input array, and then there is another method that we are using here for each, which is a loop. And for every entry in our array, I go and do something. Okay, so for each, and then here we have to say what it should do for each. So for each element in our array, I call the compare function here that I gave you, where he checks, oh, is it an A or a B or a C or something? And then if it has a hit, it puts the result into our output. And if something's already in there, it adds it afterwards. Okay, so for each, compare. Okay. And now we have to create a new function for the other way, where we have Morse code. So function, we called it translate Morse. Okay. And in there, we're pretty much doing the same, except we don't have to make it uppercase anymore because it's Morse code. So text input, and we're just splitting the text input. So text input, not splice, split, and we're using to, we're going to split for every space we're having. So, because every letter gets a space in Morse code. Okay, and then for the text input, we're checking with our compare Morse function for every entry we're having. For each, compare Morse. And the Morse one compares a tiny bit different, because it compares if it's a dot and a hyphen, or if it's a dot and a dot and a hyphen. You know, these are then different letters by Morse code. So, and if the first one, when we're comparing regular text to Morse code, if none of the parameters I gave in here, like plus, minus, ABC, 1 to 9, and 0, if none of them match, we give our text array an empty space. Okay. Seems to be good. Then we created everything we should, so let's save it then. And then let's try it out. Let's refresh the page. Okay. And then we have the Morse code down here. And if we're taking that one here, for example, and putting it up here, so we're checking backwards, it should give us the result again. What's los, Felix? Upstairs, I'm teaching still. Is it working? Okay, so let's compare code. So we have the script tag, we have the two variables, the input and the output. So first step, I would check if I named my functions and the call to my functions, if these are injected with typos or not. So if that's all good, then the first thing is eliminated. And the second one is if you're going to get element by ID, you don't have to have the hashtag, for example, here inside or here, because we're already checking for an ID. So that's right too. So then let's check these two functions then. Check for spaces before the brackets. Like here, for example, there's no space. There's no space. Still not working. Okay. Is it not working both ways or just one way not?
Both ways, because I don't know how to do Morse code. I click the button and nothing happens.
No, but you put text in here, like
yeah. I can put like text in there.
And you click
and it just
the button
doesn't come
and
out.
nothing happens. Okay, so then this would be check if this one is right. So really for every typo. So function translate text input equals text input dot to uppercase brackets dot split with two tag marks or two quotes inside without space in between. So there's also no space in here. Okay, and then text input for each compare. Still not?
Nope, I'm a lost cause. It just must be my computer.
Now. Show it to me quick. So here, you show me your code. What's los?
Like
Batman.
share my screen?
Yes, please.
Okay.
What's los, Batman?
I'm not Batman. Why was things to be put down? I take my socks off. I'm blue.
can't share my screen while you're sharing yours.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay.
So, okie dokie.
All right, here it is.
Our text input.
Is this it right here?
With a capital E, yeah.
Oh my goodness. Please let that be it. No,
No.
it
Okay.
couldn't be that simple.
Or it could be. Okay. Add event listener. Do the job. Do the job. Yeah. 1, 2, 1. 3. Okay. Haha. Line number 77. There is no space between the word Morse and the brackets. Yeah. Else.
This one. Of course not. Dang it.
It was 1, 2. So, okay, let's scroll down a little bit. Then here in line 85, there is also no space. Text input to uppercase for each component. Yeah.
We're gonna switch it up.
Still not. Okay. More. Okay.
What about line 73? Then you have another
73.
space there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do the job.
Yeah.
Is it really all of these spaces?
Yes.
That just seems impossible.
Okay, let's try it again.
I'll switch it up.
Still
Dang
more.
it.
Okay.
This is like hunting. We're gonna find it eventually.
Aha. Okay, in line 76, it's also starts with, and not start with.
My goodness. Wait, with the S or without the S?
With the S.
Okay, starts with. All of these little things, like,
Yeah.
this is scary to be, imagine being a programmer and just messing up one little line. There we go. Yay.
Well, and now test the other way. So
Happy that worked.
So where you need that plaster. Komm her. Hier, wir werden fest. Schnell, bevor wir wieder weitermachen. So. Okay. Let's share my screen again. See, it's not so hard. All the little spaces. You can make as much space as you want. Here, for example, I can go like this. It does not matter, but in here, Dead space matters. Okay. Oops. Okay, so it's working now for everyone? Yay. So we're having more to do today. What else have I planned for you guys? Oh yeah, so our fun little side projects. So I want you guys to have fun too in between. So let's open the, what was the index one? Yeah, super. Actually, it does not matter which one we're taking, because I'm just showing you, I just want to have an empty script for you. Take the first day. Yeah, it's an empty one. Okay. Now I'm going back to explaining stuff for you. So like this time we used the for each loop to go through every one of the, so that was an introduction to loops. So we have a couple of different loops we can use. Let's start. We have as first one the for loop, and that one is used when you know how often you want to run it. Okay. Instead of for each, I could have used the for loop. It's just not as fancy as the for each loop. It requires a little bit more text. So the for loop starts with the word for, okay? And then we need a condition. So, okay. And we need 3 sets of data for the condition. So we need something to set and then increment for every time we run through. So like a counter. And then we need a statement that tells me when to stop. So, because otherwise you have an endless loop and your browser will be occupied forever and sooner or later quit on you. It says, so it's an endless loop. I don't want to do that anymore. So usually it's done with creating a variable inside the requirements, so for the loop, so var, and most people call it I. Okay, if you have 2 loops running inside, then you have I and J or X and Y or whatever you want to call it, basically. So then semicolon, and then it's the next statement. So now I'm checking for it. So as long as I is smaller or less than, let's say 10, okay, you run the loop. And at the end of the loop, you take I and add 1 to it. So I forgot here. First, we create a variable and give it the value of 0. Okay. So then 0 is less than 10. Go and do the loop. At the end of the loop, add 1. So, and then it goes back to the top. I is now 1. 1 is less than 10. Go do whatever, it's our code. Add 1. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then it's the 10 times we're running the code. It checks, oh, I is not smaller than, so I is now 10. 10 is not smaller than 10. So it stops running the code. If I have here from the smaller equal to 10, then it would run at another time and then stop. So, and then to do whatever we want to do for every time. We have the curly brackets. And then inside there, for example, console log I out. Okay. And just to be fun, I go in the browser. Any website here, inspect. So, okay. And then run, and I get 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, because 10 is or not smaller than 10 anymore. So the loop gets done till it's done. Okay, that's the for loop. Now I want to write here in Dreamweaver because it's a little bigger for you guys. Then, another way to do it. So I ran it now 10 times. I started with 0 and ended with 9. Okay. If I start not with 0, like with 1, then I would have to say is smaller or equal to 10 to have it run 10 times. So you have to know what you're doing. If you start with 1, you need to count till 10 also, or if you start with 0, you don't have to count till 10. That makes sense. At the moment, yes, okay. So, second way of loop, there is a while loop, okay? While. That one pretty much does the same, but it's written different. And it's more used for when you don't know how often you have to run something, okay? So for that one, you create a variable of stay with I and set it to 0, okay? And then we start the while loop, while, then we need a condition, while I is less than 10 again, we do something, okay? Console log I again, but here we have to write our code ourselves to increment every time we run. So we need I++, okay? If you forget that, we're at 0 and 0 is smaller than 10, and the next time it's 0 and 0 is smaller than 10. So we're again in an endless loop. So that's why we need to increment I. So let's go here back again, paste it in and test it. And we have the same result. Okay, but if you forget this little bunny here, you get an error. Let's forget it. See what the browser tells us. Okay. It runs and runs and runs and runs and runs. 900 times, 1,000 times. Okay, and that's called an endless loop. Okay. To break here out somehow. Okay. Let's refresh the page. Whoa. Still breaks the page. That's how you slow down your computer. Okay, it worked.
Was it your intention to break your computer?
Not necessarily, but if it's a little more obvious, the browser tells you that this is an endless loop and stops for you.
Okay.
So we're here. Okay, so you see, don't forget that little tiny one here. So what do I have here? Oh, that's a fun one. A little one for the browser. So how often can we exponentially grow 2.1 before we reach 567? Everyone know the answer? No. Okay.
Nope.
No, not by heart. Okay. So let's create that little thing. So var I equals 1. So we start with the counter at 1. And we want to store our information, how often you have to grow. So var, let's call that repetitions, reps. And we start with 0. And then let's create our while loop. So while I is less than 567. We want to add the thing to the reps. Oops. Reps. So we want to console out something. So console log reps plus reps give us I. So we get a little information too. And then I is being multiplied with I and 2.1, right? Zips. And there we have the result. It's 9 times. 9 times give us 378 something. And the 10th time it would give us 794. Cool. It's a very useless example, but it shows you what you can do. Everyone good?
Yep, all good. It's a nice calculator.
So did you test it on your calculator? That your machine?
Well, I don't have one around here.
It's pretty much all a computer does is calculate things.
It's doing its job the way it was meant to be. It's great. Help me get my math grade up too.
Yeah. You could write Python scripts for all that stuff.
Gosh.
So let's come to the next way of loops we have. So that one is called a do while loop. And we could write our little script we just had and rewrite it a little bit for a do while loop, okay? So var I is 567. So that's our start for I. And then another var for the repetitions. So reps. And this one starts with 0 again. And then we do something. Do. And what should it do? It should add 1 to the reps and console log the reps plus reps gives us I. Okay, then we need I to multiply with 2.1 again. Okay, so the difference so far between our while loop and the do while loop is the do while loop gets at least executed once. So in the while loop, it checks if I is smaller than 10. If I set I to 10, it's not smaller. It will not execute the code block. But in the do while loop, it gets at least executed once, and then it gets checked the first time if it would apply for another loop. That's the difference between the do while and the while loop. So, and here we have to do our while statement, while, and then the condition, while I is less than 567. Okay. So how often get our code run now when I put it in the browser? How often?
Every 567 seconds?
No, just one time, because I is set to 567, which is not less than 567. So we only gets run once. If I set here I to, if I set here I to 1 again, like before, it would get our 9 repetitions again. That's the difference. The do while loop, as I said, get at least one time run, even if it's if the condition is wrong, it gets run one time regardless. Okay. I don't even want to crazy you guys all up with all the for each loop and stuff, but that takes a little bit more. But usually with a for loop, you're going to pretty much everything. So a use case for the for loop is something if I have an array and have to go through it, and I don't know how long the array is, I use a for loop. So, or nowadays, as you saw with my other script, the for each loop. So I would say var I equals 0, then I equals, I is less than, let's create here a variable with the array 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, as long the array is less than the length of the array. So as long as I is less than the length of the array. So the array length a plus plus. Okay. Console log I. Yeah. No. Let's do the array and then the position of I. Okay. Where is my? The array is not a function. Oh. Ah. Why is that wrong?
I found it.
Okay, I have some error here with that one. I have to look it up first. Okay, but this is an example. So you would check for the length of the array in here, and then for every time you're going in there, you're checking if I'm still on the position less than the maximum positions the array has. I have to look. Haven't had that for a while to write. Okay, so that's what it is. Found my mistake. This is not a method. Okay. Okay, I found my mistake. So the length is not a method, it's just added to the array. So, and then for every place in the array, it goes one time through the loop and puts the position, the value that is on position 0 is number 1, and so on out there. And we can use that in an example. Let's open the, what's the file? The DOM events HTML file. Okay. It's where we had earlier, we created the button that hides and shows. So, and let's preview that one in the browser. And then we're inspecting that page. So I will create with you guys something that goes through our HTML script here and gets all the attributes for the links that starts with HTTP. Okay. So it picks all the external links out of our script. So, and we store that in a variable. So var external links. When we look in the document, we use the query selector all this time. Query selector all, because we don't know how many we get. And in there, we're looking for anchor tags who have an href attribute. So href. And it should start. So that little sign here, the little house roof, means it has to start with something that is equal to HTTP in quotes, sorry, HTTP. Then we close that one, we close our tag marks, and we close our brackets. Okay. So now we have them all stored there. And now let's loop through that array and see what we get, right? No, I'm not doing that one now. So for var I equals 0 and I is less than the external links array length, we're going through and adding 1 to I. And for every element we're having, we console logging it out. Console log the external links at that specific position. Okay, and if I run that script, I get my 6 elements, which are here at the bottom. The Famebook, the Instahem, Amnesty, Twitcher, Picturest, and Hedge link. Is that working? Okay. So, and now I could go through all these external links, and because they don't have a target attribute there, I could inject that into inject it into our HTML. Okay. So if we don't, with the exclamation mark, have the external links at that position, okay, if they has an attribute, of target, so if it has the attribute of target, we don't have to do anything with it, but it has not the attribute of target, we go and set the attribute of target for that link. So external links at that position in the array. Set attribute target, and we want to have underscore blank. Sorry, guys. So we have to add that in our loop. Okay. And then the output is that they have targets. So let me show you guys that here.
He's really having fun.
Yeah, he's having fun. The whole day.
It's really
So,
positive energy.
at the moment. He's
Well,
a twin. What is that in English? Twin? A Gemini?
Gemini?
Yeah.
He was born in June.
Yeah. So
Oh.
he is one or the other. So there is no in between with him.
Oh boy. Well, you have him in his good state now. Don't anger
Yeah.
him.
He only
careful
was
what you
screaming a
say.
little bit. Okay,
Oh
did
my gosh.
that if statement work for you guys in the for loop? Yeah.
Yeah.
So all of our external HTML elements now have a target attribute added by magic when we run the script. So we are not losing people from our website if they click to external links. Okay. So then, yeah. You guys want to do 10, 15 more minutes, or you guys want to stop now? I don't know how much more you guys can take.
I wouldn't mind going to bed a few minutes early.
Okay.
Today.
Okay, then let's stop here. And Monday, I show you guys how to break out of a loop. And then we're doing something to find prime numbers, a short example. And then we start with the jQuery library. You see that some statements are a little different. Oh, and
Oh gosh.
today I assigned to you the project, right?
Oh boy. Okay.
Okay. It's not too much. So our little project.
Okay, I see what a guy's doing up there.
Okay. So okay, so for the project, I created a little registration, and I have 3 elements here, 3 blocks. So first name, last name, email, and telephone number. And when you're a guest, I want to have your address, the date of birth, and the travel. But if you're a volunteer, I want to have your volunteer dates and information. So I just hide and unhide by clicking at the radio button. Okay, so I want you guys, I don't know how I said it in the project, that you're creating something like this. You don't have to use Bootstrap, nice, and have some radio button and do something with it if someone clicks something on and off. That's all.
Okay. Is this something that looks easy, but might be really, really hard to do. Oh yeah, there it is. That's the trick.
Yeah, if you
Okay.
know how it works, it's pretty easy. And if not, then not.
Okay.
So, but remember what you have. First, build your form and
Yeah.
build it proper so that you have hooks where you can go with JavaScript. Okay. If you have problems, we have plenty of classes JavaScript related left to dig into that
Okay.
one. Okay. For me, I said I have the Bootstrap registry. I use Bootstrap because it's nicer with the styling. I have the first block here where I have the radio button, then a second block here with the first set of information, and then one set for this set of information, and then another set down here for the volunteer information. And when I load the page, I hide one part of the three, and then I have probably an event listener going on somewhere that checks for the state of the radio button. And if someone clicks the other radio button, the one gets hidden and the other one gets unhidden, or vice versa. Just you guys do something with JavaScript.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Yeah. For more information, let's read through it. Project 3. Integrate, blah, 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 JavaScript or jQuery. You can use either one. I don't care. Yeah, expand or make unseen something by clicking at the radio button, and reverse when you click the other radio button. Yeah, that's all.
Okay.
And I want you guys to first first you build the website with hooks to go and do stuff, right? Think about how you would set it up that you have these hooks. And then go with the Mozilla developer website I showed you, and or on W3 School, and try to find methods that are doing what you want. Because there are 50 million ways to do what I asked for. So you can do it this way or that, you know. Could be this or that, or this way or that way. And I did 2 examples, one with jQuery, one with JavaScript, so vanilla JavaScript as it's called. It's, how long is it? 10 lines of, how much JavaScript is it? So jQuery is 10 lines of code and JavaScript is 15. I don't want to show it too long to you guys. But build the form first with hooks, and think logically what you want to do. Like, first I have an initial state, right? And then what if that initial state changes? What do I have? How do I get the information that it changed? And then how do I change something then on the website? And what if the other one changes back to that one? So how to do that in logic steps. I know that's the hardest one of all. Everyone good? Questions for the project? Monday?
Well, yeah, we'll just have to try, I guess.
Yeah. Don't worry about jQuery. You will know on Monday. It's not too much difference than to what we did so far. It's just it comes with a few pre-built methods that make stuff easier. Not so much anymore. That's why Bootstrap 5 dropped jQuery completely. So now with the query selector and query selector all, most of the jQuery, the easy jQuery stuff is gone. Is equal to the regular JavaScript. It's just some other methods that you can call that someone else redefined in so that you also can use old Internet Explorer for stuff, and it's to make it browser compatible. No, that every browser does the same thing, because they are all work a little bit different, and on some results they don't work for example, Firefox or Opera something doesn't work. You have to write it a little different. jQuery just made everything running smooth, but now the browsers all cut up and old Internet Explorer is ditched. So now with plain vanilla JavaScript, it's all possible. Easy. And if it helps you guys, just take a sheet of paper and write the logic steps one by one. First, how do I get the initial state? How do I get the information that something changed? What to do then when it changed, and how to do it back. Just write down a logic plan for what has to happen first, second, third.
Okay. I'll give it a shot.
Okay. Sleep well.
Thank you.
Okay, good night.
You too.
Thank you.
Good
Have a
night.
nice weekend.
Yeah, you too, guys.
Have a good weekend. See you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a great weekend.